The doorman's hand hit the glass before it opened. Louisville, Kentucky. February 1960. The young heavyweight had driven 40 minutes for this gym. Best speed bags in the state. Inside, 20 white men stopped mid-workout. The doorman stepped outside, pulled the door shut, and smiled a smile that wasn't friendly. "Can't you read, boy?" The fighter was 21, 6'3". Gold medal from Rome still fresh. He looked at the doorman, at the sign above the entrance, then back at the man blocking his way. He didn't raise his voice. What he said in the next 30 seconds changed that doorman's life forever, silenced every man in that gym, and became a story people still whisper about today. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Louisville, Kentucky, 6 hours earlier, 8:47 a.m. Cassius Clay woke to the sound of his mother humming in the kitchen. The smell of bacon and eggs drifted through the small house on Grand Avenue. He'd been back from Rome for 3 months now, and the gold medal still hung on his bedroom wall, catching morning light. He was 21 years old, Olympic champion, undefeated as a professional. But in Louisville, Kentucky, he was still just another colored boy who had to use the back entrance at most restaurants. His mother, Odessa, set a plate in front of him without a word. She had that look again, the one she got whenever he talked about his dreams, about being heavyweight champion of the world, about changing things. "You eat," she said. His father, Cassius Sr., sat at the table reading the newspaper. He painted signs for a living, good at it too. But there was something in his father's eyes that Cassius recognized, a quiet anger that never quite went away. "Says here Patterson's fighting again in June," his father said, not looking up. "I'll be fighting him by next year." His father folded the newspaper. "You train hard enough, maybe." Cassius smiled. "I train harder than anyone alive. It wasn't arrogance, it was fact." Every morning he ran 5 miles before sunrise. Every afternoon he was in the gym, Columbia Gym on Gray Street, the color gym. Equipment was old, ring was worn, speed bags held together with tape, but he'd outgrown it. Angelo Dundee, his trainer, had told him about a gym across town, white gym, professional setup, speed bags that sang when you hit them right, heavy bags that could take real power, fighters there who'd gone 10 rounds with champions. "You can't go there," Angelo had said. "Not worth the trouble." But Cassius had already decided. WEST Louisville, 11:23 a.m. He drove his father's Oldsmobile through downtown, past the Brown Hotel where he couldn't eat, past the movie theater where colored folks sat in the balcony, past the park where he'd won his first amateur fight at 12 years old. That fight had changed everything. He'd been crying about his stolen bicycle when a police officer named Joe Martin found him. The boy had threatened to whip whoever took it. Martin had smiled and said if he wanted to whip somebody, he should learn how to fight first. 9 years later, Cassius had a gold medal and a professional record of 7 wins, 0 losses. But in Louisville, that didn't mean much. He pulled up to a red light. A white woman in the car next to him locked her door. She didn't look at him, just reached over and clicked the lock. He'd seen that gesture 1,000 times. The light turned green. Fairview Avenue, 1:15 p.m. The gym sat between a hardware store and barber shop. 3 stories, red brick, big windows on the second floor where you could see fighters moving inside. A sign above the entrance in clean white letters, Fairview Athletic Club. Cassius had driven past it twice already. Both times he'd kept going. This time he parked across the street. Through the windows he could see them, white fighters working heavy bags, trainers calling out combinations, the sound of leather hitting leather carrying through the glass. He sat in the car for 10 minutes. His hands didn't shake. They never did. Not before a fight. Not before anything. But there was something else in his chest now. Not fear exactly. Something older than that. His mother's voice in his head, "Baby, some fights you can't win." His brother Rudy always said he talked too much. Always said his mouth would get him in trouble. But Cassius knew something his brother didn't. Words were power. The right words at the right time could change everything. He stepped out of the car. The street was quiet, February cold settling into his shoulders. He crossed the street, climbed the 3 concrete steps, and reached for the door. That's when the hand hit the glass. Fairview Athletic Club, 1:47 p.m. The doorman was maybe 50, thick through the middle, hair slicked back. He wore a gray uniform with the gym's logo stitched on the chest. His name tag said Frank. Frank stepped outside and let the door close behind him. Inside, the gym had gone quiet. Cassius could see them through the glass. 20 men, maybe more. All of them white, all of them watching. Frank looked him up and down, took his time with it. "Can't you read, boy?" There was a sign. Cassius had seen it when he pulled up, small, brass plate next to the entrance. 3 words that meant everything in 1960 Louisville. Members only. But everyone knew what it really meant. Cassius met Frank's eyes. He was 6'3". Frank was maybe 5'10". The gold medal from Rome was in his car. 7 professional wins, 0 losses, fastest hands in the light heavyweight division. None of it mattered right now. "I'm here to train," Cassius said. Frank smiled, not friendly. "Something else. Train somewhere else. Best speed bags in the state are in there. For members, I can pay membership." Frank's smile got wider. "We're full up." Behind the glass, the fighters hadn't moved. They stood frozen, watching, waiting to see what would happen next. Cassius could feel it, that old familiar thing, the thing his father carried in his eyes, the thing his mother hummed away in the kitchen, the thing that lived in Louisville like humidity in August. He'd felt it in Rome, too. Gold medal ceremony. Standing on that podium, American flag rising, national anthem playing. He'd thought maybe things would be different when he came home. Olympic hero, champion. The restaurants still made him use the back door. "I just want to train," Cassius said. Frank's hand moved to his belt, not threatening exactly, just letting it rest there, letting Cassius see where it rested. "You deaf, boy?" I said we're full. Inside the gym, a trainer in a white shirt moved closer to the window. He was older, maybe 60, gray hair, thick glasses. He watched Cassius with something that might have been curiosity. Cassius looked past Frank, through the glass, at the ring, the bags, the equipment that could make him better, make him faster, make him champion. Then he looked at Frank again. "What's your name?" Cassius asked. Frank blinked. "What?" "Your name. I can see Frank on your shirt. That's your first name or last name?" "First name." "Why?" "Just want to remember it." Frank's face changed. The smile disappeared. "You threatening me?" "No, sir. Just want to remember the name of the man who wouldn't let me train." Something flickered in Frank's eyes. Confusion, maybe. Or anger. Hard to tell. "You think you're special because you won some medal overseas?" "No, sir." "You think you're better than the other colored boys in this town?" "I think I'm a fighter who wants to train." Frank stepped closer. Close enough that Cassius could smell cigarettes on his breath. Coffee, something else underneath, fear maybe. "Let me explain something to you, boy. This gym has standards. We don't let just anyone walk in here. You understand?" Cassius didn't move, didn't step back, didn't raise his voice. "I understand you're scared." Frank's face went red. "What did you say?" "You're scared. That's why you won't let me in. I'm not scared of you, not scared of me. Scared of what happens if I walk through that door and I'm better than everyone in there." The street was still quiet, no cars, no people, just Cassius and Frank and 20 white men watching through glass. Frank's hand tightened on his belt. "You need to leave. Right now." Cassius looked at him for a long moment. Then he looked at the gym, at the fighters frozen in their stances, at the old trainer with gray hair still watching through the window. He thought about his mother's humming, his father's newspaper, the woman who locked her car door at the red light, the restaurants with back entrances, the medals that didn't change anything. He thought about Joe Martin finding a crying 12-year-old boy who wanted to whip somebody. And he thought about something else, something his trainer Angelo had told him once. Words are just another kind of punch. You throw them right, they land harder than fists. Cassius smiled. Not the smile he used for cameras, not the smile he used when he predicted knockouts. A different smile. Quieter. Sadder, maybe. "I'll leave," he said. Frank relaxed. "Good. But I want you to remember something. I don't want to hear it. In 5 years, maybe less, I'm going to be heavyweight champion of the world. People are going to know my name in every country on this planet. And when they ask me about my career, about the fights I won and the fighters I beat, I'm going to tell them about today." Frank laughed. "That right? I'm going to tell them about the gym in Louisville, about the doorman named Frank who was too scared to let me train. And people are going to remember you, not as the man who kept me out, as the man who wasn't big enough to let me in. The laugh died in Frank's throat. Cassius turned and walked back down the 3 concrete steps, crossed the street, got in his father's Oldsmobile. He didn't look back, but through the gym window, the old trainer with gray hair was already moving toward the door. Grand Avenue, 3:22 p.m. Cassius sat at the kitchen table. His mother was making dinner, chicken and greens. The radio played low, some station out of Nashville. His hands rested flat on the table. Still steady, they were always steady. "How was the gym?" his mother asked without turning around. "Didn't go in." She stopped stirring. "Why not? Wasn't welcome." Odessa turned to look at him. She'd been beautiful once, still was in certain light. But raising 2 boys in Louisville had put lines in her face that shouldn't have been there yet. "I told you not to go there." "I know. Did they hurt you?" "No, ma'am." She studied him, trying to see past the calm, past the steady hands, looking for whatever she was always looking for when he came home. "You hurt anyone?" "No, ma'am." She went back to the stove. Good. The radio played. The chicken sizzled. Outside, kids were playing in the street. Their voices carried through the window, high and happy, not worried about gyms or doormen or signs that said members only. Cassius stood up. "I'm going for a drive. Dinner's in an hour. I'll be back." Columbia Gym, 4:41 p.m. The colored gym was on Grace Street, 2 blocks from the bus station. The building leaned a little to the left, windows covered with wire mesh, paint peeling on the door. Inside it smelled like sweat and leather and something else, something that had soaked into the walls over 30 years. Determination, maybe, or desperation. Hard to tell the difference sometimes. Angelo Dundee stood by the ring watching 2 fighters spar. He was 38, wore glasses, moved like a man who'd been in gyms his whole life, quick and careful, always watching. He saw Cassius and walked over. "How'd it go?" "Like you said it would." Angelo nodded. Didn't ask for details. Didn't need to. He'd grown up in South Philadelphia. Knew how the world worked. Knew what signs like members only really meant. "You work the heavy bag?" "Not yet." "Then get changed. You're burning daylight." Cassius went to the locker room, changed into his training gear, wrapped his hands. The ritual of it calmed something in his chest. The familiar movements, the tape pulling tight, the preparation for violence. When he came back out, Angelo had the speed bag set up. 3-minute rounds, 5 times. "I want to hear music." Cassius started slow, the bag moving in rhythm. Pop, 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 pop. Not thinking about Frank. Not thinking about the gym. Just the bag, just the rhythm, just the sound of leather connecting. By the 3rd round, he found it. That place where everything disappeared except the movement, where the bag became an extension of his hands, where time bent and flowed and suddenly 3 minutes felt like 3 seconds. Angelo watched, said nothing. When Cassius finished, his shirt was soaked through. His breathing was steady. His hands still didn't shake. "Better," Angelo said. "Not good enough. It's good enough for now." Cassius unwrapped his hands. The tape was dark with sweat. "I need better equipment. We have what we have. I need better sparring partners. The fighters here are good. They're not good enough. I'm faster than all of them." Angelo took off his glasses, cleaned them on his shirt, put them back on. "Being the best in this gym won't make you champion. I know. Being the best in Louisville won't make you champion. I know that too." "Then what do you want me to say?" Cassius looked around the gym. At the worn ring, the taped bags, the fighters who came here because they had nowhere else to go. Good men, hard workers. But none of them would ever fight for a title. "I want you to help me get out of here." Angelo was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. Columbia Gym, 5:53 p.m. The gym was emptying out. Fighters heading home. Trainers locking up equipment. The sun coming through the wire mesh windows at a sharp angle. Cassius sat on a bench, still in his training gear. Angelo sat next to him. "I got a call this morning," Angelo said. "About what?" "About you. From a man named William Faversham." Cassius didn't recognize the name. "Who's he?" "Rich man from Louisville. Saw you fight in Rome. Saw what you could be." Angelo paused. "He wants to invest in you." "Invest how?" "Put together a group, local businessmen. They'd handle your career, pay for training, pay for everything. In exchange, they'd get a percentage of your earnings." Cassius had heard about arrangements like this. Fighters signing away their futures for a chance. Some of them worked out. Most didn't. What percentage? 50%. That's a lot. It's also a lot of money they'd be spending. Good trainers, good sparring partners, good equipment. Where would I train? Miami Beach. With me, full-time. Miami. Away from Louisville. Away from members-only signs. Away from doormen named Frank. What do I have to do? Angelo looked at him. Meet them. Hear what they have to say. Then decide. When? Tomorrow. 2 o'clock. Brown Hotel. Cassius almost laughed. The Brown Hotel won't let me in the front door. They will for this meeting. Faversham already arranged it. That's how it worked. Money opened doors that gold medals couldn't. I'll think about it. Angelo stood up. Don't think too long. Opportunities like this don't wait. Grand Avenue, 7:14 p.m. Dinner was quiet. His father asked about training. Cassius gave short answers. His brother Rudy talked about a girl he'd met. His mother just watched him. That look again. After dinner, Cassius went to his room. The gold medal hung on the wall. In certain light, it looked like real gold. In other light, it looked like painted metal. Both things were true. He thought about the meeting tomorrow, about Miami, about 50% of everything he'd earn, about men in suits deciding his future. Then he thought about Frank's hand on the glass, about 20 white men watching through a window, about his mother's humming, about his father's eyes. He thought about something else, too, something he hadn't told Angelo. When he was walking back to the car, when his back was turned, he'd heard it, the door opening, voices, Frank saying something sharp, then another voice, older, saying something back. The old trainer with gray hair. Cassius had kept walking, gotten in the car, driven away. But he'd heard it, an argument, about what he didn't know. But something had shifted in that moment. He'd seen it in Frank's eyes. That flicker, not fear of Cassius, fear of being wrong. Now, lying in his room, gold medal on the wall, Cassius made a decision. He'd go to the meeting tomorrow. He'd listen to what these men had to say. But he'd do something else first. He'd go back to Fairview Athletic Club. Not to fight, not to force his way in, just to see. To understand what had happened after he left, to look Frank in the eye one more time, because something Angelo once told him had stuck. You don't beat a man by knocking him down. You beat him by making him respect you. And Cassius Clay intended to be respected. Outside, the street went quiet. The kids stopped playing. Lights clicked on in houses up and down Grand Avenue. Tomorrow would change everything. He just didn't know how yet. Fairview Athletic Club. 9:47 a.m. Cassius drove past the gym 3 times before parking. Same spot as yesterday, across the street, view of the entrance. The sign was still there. Members only. But something was different. He couldn't name it, just felt it. He sat in the car for 20 minutes, watching. The door opened twice. Men going in, men coming out, all white, all walking past that sign like it wasn't even there. Frank wasn't at the door. Cassius got out of the car. The morning air was cold, clear. He crossed the street, climbed the 3 concrete steps, reached for the door. It opened before he touched it. The old trainer with gray hair stood there. Up close he looked older than 60, maybe 70. Weathered face, thick glasses that made his eyes look bigger than they were. He wore the same white shirt from yesterday. Gym logo on the chest. You came back, the old man said. Didn't plan to, but here you are, here I am. The old man studied him. Not the way Frank had studied him. Different, like he was trying to see something past the surface. My name's Red Miller. I train fighters here. Cassius Clay. I know who you are. Saw you fight in Rome. On television. Red paused. You were good. Thank you. Not as good as you think you are, but good. Cassius almost smiled. That right? You drop your right hand when you throw the left jab. Leaves you open. Won't matter against amateurs. Will matter against professionals. It was true. Angelo had been telling him the same thing for months. You watch a lot of fights? Cassius asked. Been watching fights for 50 years. Been training them for 30. Then you know I can't train here. Red adjusted his glasses. That's what Frank said. Where is Frank? Not here today. Called in sick. They stood in the doorway, neither moving. Behind Red, the gym was busy. Fighters working, bags swinging, the sound of a timer going off. 3-minute rounds. Why'd you open the door? Cassius asked. Wanted to talk. About what? About yesterday. About what you said to Frank. Red shifted his weight. That thing about being champion, about people remembering him. I meant it. I believe you did. That's what bothered Frank, not that you said it, that you believed it. A trainer inside called out a combination. 1, 2, 3, duck, move. The sound of gloves hitting leather. I should go, Cassius said. You came here for a reason, came to train. No, you came back for a reason, different than training. Cassius looked at the old man, at the thick glasses, at the weathered face, at something in his eyes that looked like understanding. I came to see if I was wrong, Cassius said. Wrong about what? About this place, about the people here. Red nodded slowly. And what did you see? I saw you opening the door. That all? That's enough. A fighter walked past them, young. Maybe 25, white, gym bag over his shoulder. He looked at Cassius, then at Red, then kept walking without a word. Red watched him go. Most of the men in there are good people, Red said. They work hard, they respect the sport, they respect each other. But not me. They don't know you. Hard to respect what you don't know. Hard to get to know someone when you won't let them through the door. Red's face changed, something sad in it. You're right about that. Another fighter came out, older, maybe 40. He nodded at Red and walked down the steps. I got a meeting at 2, Cassius said. Important people. Might change my life. Then you should go to it. But I wanted to come here first. Wanted to see if maybe I'd been wrong. If maybe things could be different. Red took off his glasses, cleaned them on his shirt, put them back on. Things are the way they are for a reason. Doesn't mean they're right. Just means they are. That's not good enough. No, it's not. They stood there, the morning getting warmer, the streets starting to fill with cars, people going about their lives, not thinking about gyms or doors or signs that said members only. I'll tell you something, Red said. What you said yesterday. About being champion. About people knowing your name. What about it? I believe you. I think you will be champion. I think you'll be better than good. He paused. And I think when that happens, places like this won't matter anymore. Because you'll be so far past us we won't even be in your rearview mirror. Cassius felt something in his chest. Not anger, not sadness, something else. Maybe, he said. Red looked back into the gym, then back at Cassius. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Yesterday, when Frank stopped you, you could have fought. You're bigger, younger, faster. Why didn't you? Cassius thought about it. About his mother's voice. About his father's eyes. About all the times he'd been told to just accept things, just keep his head down, just survive. Fighting him would have proved him right. How's that? He thinks I'm dangerous. He thinks people like me are a threat. If I'd swung on him, that's all anyone would remember. Not that he was wrong, that I was violent. Red nodded. Smart. My mother taught me that. Said words are better than fists, most of the time. Your mother sounds wise. She is. A truck drove past, the sound of it rattling down the street. Somewhere a dog barked, normal sounds, normal day. But standing in that doorway, Cassius felt like something was ending. Or beginning. Hard to tell which. That meeting you have, Red said, the important one. Yeah? Take it, whatever they're offering. If it gets you out of Louisville, take it. Why? Because this town will suffocate you. I've seen it happen. Good fighters, great fighters. They stay too long and the place just wears them down. Makes them forget what they could be. Cassius looked at the gym. Through the windows. At the fighters he'd never spar with. At the equipment he'd never use. At the future that would never be his inside those walls. I'm going to Miami, he said. Good. Going to train there. Get better. Get fast enough that no one can touch me. That's a good plan. Then I'm coming back. Red raised an eyebrow. Why would you do that? Because I want Frank to see me. Want him to see what I became. Want him to know he was wrong. Frank doesn't matter. He matters to me. Red was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small card, white, embossed with the gym's logo. This is a guest pass. Good for one day. Any day you want to use it. Cassius took the card. It was heavier than it looked. Why are you giving me this? Because 30 years ago, someone gave me a chance I didn't deserve, and it changed my life. Red looked him in the eye. You use that card, you walk through this door, you train with us for one day, and I guarantee half the men in there will never forget it. Maybe that matters. Maybe it doesn't. But it's yours if you want it. Cassius held the card. Felt the weight of it. Felt what it represented. Not just access to a gym. Access to something bigger. Some kind of bridge between two worlds that weren't supposed to touch. When I come back, Cassius said, I'll be champion. I believe you. And Frank will have to deal with that himself. They shook hands. Red's grip was stronger than Cassius expected. Working man's hands. Hands that had taped up fighters for 3 decades. Hands that had seen champions made and broken. Cassius walked back down the 3 steps, crossed the street, got in his father's Oldsmobile. This time he did look back. Red was still standing in the doorway. Watching, he raised his hand, a small wave, recognition of something that had passed between them, some understanding that didn't need words. Cassius drove away. The card sat on the passenger seat, white against the black vinyl, a promise, an invitation, a challenge. The Brown Hotel, 1:47 p.m. Cassius parked in front of the hotel, straightened his tie, checked his reflection in the rearview mirror. He looked good, professional, like someone worth investing in. The front entrance was 20 feet away, the same entrance he'd never been allowed to use, the same doors that had been closed to him his entire life. Today they would open. He got out of the car, walked up the steps, reached for the door. A doorman in a burgundy uniform pulled it open. "Good afternoon, sir." Cassius walked through. The lobby was marble and chandelier and polished wood. Rich people moved through it like they owned the air itself. No one looked at him. No one stopped him. Money had made him invisible in a new way. The elevator operator asked which floor. 10th, Cassius said. The elevator rose. His stomach dropped. His hands stayed steady. When the doors opened, William Faversham was waiting. The Brown Hotel, 10th floor, 2:03 p.m. William Faversham was tall, 6'2", gray suit, gray hair, the kind of man who'd never worked with his hands but knew how to make money move. "Cassius, thank you for coming." They shook hands. Faversham's grip was weak, soft, the hand of someone who shook hands for a living. "Thank you for the invitation. Please, come in." The room was large, conference table, 10 chairs, windows overlooking downtown Louisville. 5 men sat at the table, all white, all wealthy. You could tell by the watches, the shoes, the way they held themselves. Faversham made introductions, names Cassius would forget, faces he'd remember. One owned a beer distributorship, one owned car dealerships, one was a lawyer, one owned newspapers, one he didn't catch. They all smiled, professional smiles, business smiles. "Sit, please." Faversham gestured to a chair at the head of the table. Cassius sat. They watched him, studying, evaluating, like he was a horse they were considering buying. The lawyer spoke first. His name was Archibald. Gray mustache, expensive tie. "We've been following your career. Very impressive. Thank you. Olympic gold. 7 professional wins. 0 losses. Angelo speaks highly of you. Angelo's a good trainer, the best." Archibald opened a folder. "We'd like to propose a partnership. Mr. Dundee mentioned that." "Did he mention the terms?" 50%. The room went quiet. The men looked at each other. Some silent communication passing between them. The car dealer spoke. His name was Gordon. Red face, thick neck. "That's negotiable. Is it? We're reasonable men." Faversham leaned forward. "Let me explain what we're offering. Full training in Miami Beach, best facilities, best sparring partners. We'll cover all expenses, travel, medical, everything. We'll also secure fights, good fights, against quality opponents, not just local talent. In exchange for partnership, we guide your career, make the right moves at the right time, protect you from bad deals, bad managers, bad influences." Cassius looked at each of them, these men who'd never been told they couldn't enter a building, never been told to use the back door, never had someone's hand hit the glass before they could open it. "And the percentage?" Cassius asked. Archibald cleared his throat. 40%. That's a lot. It's a lot of money we'll be investing, hundreds of thousands over the next 5 years. The newspaper owner spoke. His name was Patterson, not the fighter, different Patterson. He had kind eyes. Or maybe just tired ones. "We believe in you. We think you can be heavyweight champion. But belief isn't enough. You need infrastructure. You need protection. You need us. Why?" The question hung in the air. "Why what?" Patterson asked. "Why do you believe in me? You don't know me, never seen me fight in person. Why invest this much money in someone you just met?" The men looked at each other again. Faversham spoke carefully. "We saw you in Rome, saw what you could be, saw the talent, the speed, the charisma. And we think you could be special. Could be, will be." Cassius leaned back in his chair. Outside the window, Louisville stretched out below, his city, the place that had raised him and restricted him in equal measure. "Can I ask you something?" Of course, Faversham said. If I was white, would the percentage be different? The room froze. No one moved. No one spoke. Gordon's face got redder. That's not fair. I'm just asking. Archibald closed his folder. The business arrangement has nothing to do with race. Doesn't it? No. It has to do with risk, investment, return. Cassius nodded slowly. So if I was a white fighter, same record, same talent, same age, you'd offer the same deal? Patterson spoke quietly. Yes. You sure about that? I'm sure we're offering you an opportunity most fighters would take without question. I'm not most fighters. Faversham stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the city. What do you want, Cassius? I want to be champion. We can make that happen. Can you? We have connections, resources, experience. But do you believe it? Faversham turned around. Believe what? That I can be champion. Not that I could be. That I will be. Not maybe. Not probably. Definitely. The room was quiet. The kind of quiet that means everyone is thinking the same thing but no one wants to say it. The beer distributor spoke for the first time. His name was Marcus. He was the youngest, maybe 45. He'd been silent until now. I believe it, Marcus said. The other men looked at him. I watched you in Rome, watched how you moved, how you thought. You weren't just faster than those fighters. You were smarter. You saw things 3 moves ahead. That's not something you can teach. That's not something you can buy. That's just who you are. Cassius looked at him. Really looked at him. Thank you, Cassius said. Marcus nodded. But here's the thing. Belief isn't enough. Patterson was right about that. You need structure. You need people who can open doors, people who can make calls, people who can get you in rooms you can't get in by yourself, like this room, like this room. Cassius looked around the table, at these 5 men who held his future in their hands, these men who could give him everything he wanted or nothing at all. He thought about Frank's hand on the glass, about Red's guest pass in his pocket, about his mother's humming, about his father's newspaper. He thought about something else, too. Something Angelo had told him once. You can't change the game by yourself. You need people who know how to play it better than you do. 35%, Cassius said. The men looked at each other. That's not reasonable, Archibald said. Neither is 40. We're taking all the risk. I'm giving you my entire career, my future, everything I'll ever earn from fighting. That's not risk? Faversham sat back down. 37%. Final offer. Cassius stood up. Thank you for your time. He walked toward the door. Wait. It was Patterson, the one with kind eyes. 35%. But we add 2 years to the contract, make it 7 years instead of 5. Cassius stopped, hand on the doorknob. 7 years. He was 21 now. He'd be 28. Past prime for most fighters, but not for him. He'd be champion by 25. Defending his title by 28. 7 years at 35%? Yes. And you cover everything? Training, travel, medical, everything. Everything. Cassius turned around, looked at each of them. One more thing. What? Faversham asked. I want it in writing that I choose my trainer, no one else. Angelo Dundee stays with me. Done. And I want control over who I fight. You can suggest, you can advise. But I decide. The men looked at each other. Silent conversation happening again. That's not standard, Archibald said. I'm not standard. Marcus smiled. No, you're not. So do we have a deal? Cassius asked. Faversham extended his hand. We have a deal. They shook. This time the grip was firmer, more real. Like something had shifted. Like he'd earned something by standing up, by walking toward that door. When do you want to start? Patterson asked. Next week. Miami? Miami. The meeting ended. Contracts would be drawn up, lawyers would review. But the deal was done. The handshake was enough. In 1960, in a hotel room in Louisville, a handshake between white men and a black boxer was enough to change everything. Cassius took the elevator down, walked through the marble lobby, past the chandelier, past the polished wood, past the rich people who still didn't look at him. Outside, the February air hit his face, cold and clean. He got in his father's Oldsmobile, sat there, hands on the wheel. The guest pass was still in his pocket. Red's invitation, Red's bridge. He pulled it out, looked at it. White card, embossed logo. 1 day of training at Fairview Athletic Club. He could use it now. Go back, walk through that door with Red's permission, train with those fighters, prove something. Or he could save it. Keep it. Use it later, after Miami, after he'd gotten faster, better, after he'd proved to himself what he could become. He put the card back in his pocket. Grand Avenue, 5:39 p.m. His mother was waiting on the porch when he pulled up. She stood when she saw him. That look on her face, the one that meant she'd been worried, the one that meant she loved him more than anything in the world. "How'd it go?" she asked. "I'm going to Miami." "When?" "Next week." She didn't say anything, just looked at him, seeing her son, seeing the boy who'd cried about a stolen bicycle, seeing the man who'd won a gold medal, seeing someone she'd raised and someone she was about to lose. "I'm proud of you," she said. "I know. Your father will be too. When I tell him something else." "What?" "Tell him I'm coming back. When I'm champion, tell him I'm coming back and things are going to be different." His mother smiled. Sad smile. Knowing smile. "Baby, things are always different, just not always the way we want. They will be this time." She didn't argue, just hugged him, held him. Her boy who was leaving, her son who was becoming something she couldn't quite understand but loved anyway. Inside the house the radio played, dinner cooking, life continuing the way it always did. But everything had changed, and everyone knew it. Miami Beach, Florida, 4 years later, March 1964. Cassius Clay was 22 years old. 19 wins, 0 losses. 4 days ago he'd beaten Sonny Liston. 4 days ago he'd become heavyweight champion of the world. The phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters, journalists, people wanting interviews, people wanting pieces of him. The world had changed, or he'd changed it. Hard to tell which. Angelo sat across from him in the hotel room, the same hotel room he'd been in for 3 weeks preparing for Liston. The same room where he'd stared at the ceiling wondering if he was ready. Now he knew. He'd been ready. "NBC wants you for Carson," Angelo said. "Tell them yes. Sports Illustrated wants a cover. Yes. Life magazine wants a profile. Yes to everything." Angelo put down the list. "You need to rest. I'll rest when I'm dead. You'll be dead sooner if you don't rest." Cassius smiled. The same smile he'd used when he told reporters he was the greatest. The same smile that had driven Liston crazy. The smile that made people love him or hate him with nothing in between. "I got something for you," Angelo said. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. White, thick, hand-addressed. Cassius took it. No return address. Louisville postmark. "When did this come?" "Yesterday. I forgot about it with everything." Cassius opened it. Inside was a newspaper clipping. Louisville Courier-Journal, 2 weeks old. Small article at the bottom of the sports page. The headline, "Local gym closes after 40 years." He read it. Fairview Athletic Club was shutting down. Owner retiring. Buildings sold. Fighters moving to other gyms. At the bottom of the article, one line stood out. Red Miller, longtime trainer at the club, said the sport is changing, and perhaps it's time for old places to make way for new ones. There was a handwritten note paper-clipped to the article. The handwriting was shaky. Old person's handwriting. It said, "You were right. You're champion now. But I wanted you to know Frank died last year. Heart attack. Before he went, he told his son about you, about that day. Said you were the one who got away. Said he wished he'd opened that door. Thought you should know. The guest pass is still good if you ever want to use it." Read. Cassius read it twice, then put it down on the table. Angelo watched him. "Bad news?" "No, just news." "About what?" "About a long time ago." Cassius picked up the clipping again. Read Red's note one more time. "Frank died last year. Said he wished he'd opened that door. 4 years ago, standing on those concrete steps, Cassius had told Frank that people would remember him. Not as the man who kept the champion out. As the man who wasn't big enough to let him in. He'd been right. But, sitting in a Miami hotel room, heavyweight champion of the world, Cassius didn't feel the satisfaction he thought he'd feel. Didn't feel the vindication. Just felt tired, like some old weight was still sitting on his chest. "You okay?" Angelo asked. "Yeah, you don't look okay." Cassius folded the note. "Put it back in the envelope. I need to make a call." "To who?" "Someone from Louisville." "Can it wait?" "No." Angelo stood up. "I'll give you privacy." He left. The door closed. The hotel room was quiet except for traffic outside. Miami Beach on a Tuesday afternoon. Sunshine and ocean and people who didn't know or care about gyms in Louisville, or doormen who died wishing they'd made different choices. Cassius picked up the phone, asked the operator for long distance, gave her the number. It rang 4 times. A woman answered. "Hello, Mrs. Miller, this is Cassius Clay." Silence on the other end. Then a sharp intake of breath. "The boxer? Yes, ma'am. My husband sent you that note." "He did. I just read it. He's been following your career, watched every fight he could, listened on the radio when he couldn't watch. He was very proud when you won." Cassius didn't know what to say to that. Proud. A man he'd met once, for 5 minutes, in a doorway. "Is he there?" Cassius asked. Another pause. Longer this time. "He's in the hospital. Has been for 2 weeks. Cancer. I'm sorry. The doctors say maybe a month, maybe less." Cassius closed his eyes. "Can I visit him? You want to visit him? If that's okay." "Mr. Clay, my husband would be honored, but it's a long way from Miami to Louisville. I'll be there tomorrow." "You don't have to do that. I know, but I want to." She gave him the hospital information. Room number, visiting hours. Her voice shook when she said thank you, like she couldn't quite believe the heavyweight champion of the world was flying to Louisville to see her dying husband. When Cassius hung up, he sat there for a long time. The envelope on the table. Red's shaky handwriting. "Frank died last year. Said he wished he'd opened that door. Something Angelo had told him once. You don't beat a man by knocking him down. You beat him by making him respect you." But now Cassius understood something else, something deeper. It wasn't about beating anyone, it wasn't about respect. It was about what you carried with you, what you chose to carry, what you chose to let go. Frank had carried regret until he died. Red had carried that guest pass for 4 years. Cassius had carried that moment on the concrete steps through every fight, every victory, every time someone told him he couldn't do something. And now it was time to let it go. He pulled the guest pass from his wallet. He'd kept it all this time. White card, embossed logo, creased from being carried, faded from being touched too many times. The gym was closed. The pass was worthless. But it had never been about the gym. It had never been about training. It had been about something else, some promise, some possibility, some future that might have been different. He put the pass back in his wallet. Tomorrow he'd fly to Louisville. Tomorrow he'd sit next to Red Miller's hospital bed. Tomorrow he'd tell him about Miami, about Angelo, about becoming champion, about everything that had happened in 4 years. But tonight, in a Miami hotel room, heavyweight champion of the world, Cassius Clay finally understood what his mother had meant that day on the porch. Things are always different, just not always the way we want. Frank had wanted to open that door. But by the time he'd wanted it, it was too late. Some doors only open once. And some doors you have to walk through alone. Louisville General Hospital, March 14th, 1964, 2:17 p.m. The hospital smelled like disinfectant and dying. Cassius had smelled it before, when his grandmother passed, when his uncle got sick. That smell that meant time was running out. He walked down the hallway, room 412. Nurses looked at him, recognized him, whispered to each other. The champion, here, in Louisville General, visiting someone. He knocked on the door. "Come in." A woman's voice. Mrs. Miller was maybe 65, gray hair, tired eyes. She stood when he entered, looked at him like she couldn't quite believe he was real. "Mr. Clay, please. Call me Cassius. Thank you for coming. Thank you for letting me." She gestured to the bed. Red was asleep, or looked asleep, thin. So much thinner than Cassius remembered. The cancer eating him from inside, turning a man who'd trained fighters for 30 years into something fragile. "He sleeps a lot now," Mrs. Miller said quietly. "How long has he been sick?" "Diagnosed 6 months ago, but probably had it longer." He didn't want to know, kept working, kept training, until he couldn't anymore. Cassius sat in the chair next to the bed. Mrs. Miller sat on the other side. "He talks about you sometimes," she said. "He does? When you won the title, when you beat Liston, he told everyone, told the nurses, told the doctors, told anyone who'd listen. Said he knew you'd do it, said he saw it 4 years ago. I remember meeting him. He remembers too. Says it was the most important conversation he had in 40 years of training. Why?" Mrs. Miller looked at her husband, at the man she'd been married to for 40 years, the man who was leaving her. "Because you reminded him what the sport was supposed to be about. Not about keeping people out, about letting people in." Red's eyes opened. Slow, confused. Then they focused on Cassius. Recognition flickered. Cassius? Yes, sir. You came. I said I would. Red tried to sit up. Mrs. Miller helped him, adjusted his pillows, made him comfortable, the movements of someone who'd been doing this every day for weeks. You beat Liston, Red said. His voice was weak. Rough. I did. I listened on the radio. 7th round stoppage. That's right. I knew you would. Knew it back then. When you stood on those steps. Mr. Miller, Red. Call me Red. Red. I want to tell you something. The old man's eyes focused. Clear now. Present. Like he'd been waiting for this moment. Like he'd been holding on just to hear what Cassius had to say. I kept the guest pass, Cassius said. Red smiled, weak smile, but real. I figured you might. I wanted to use it. Wanted to come back and train there. Prove something. What stopped you? Cassius pulled the pass from his wallet, laid it on the bedside table. Faded, creased, carried for 4 years. I realized I didn't need to prove anything. Not to Frank, not to anyone. I just needed to be who I was supposed to be. Red reached for the pass, held it, his hands shaking. Frank was wrong, Red said. I know, but he figured it out. Before he died, he figured it out. Your wife told me he wanted me to tell you if I ever saw you, wanted you to know he was sorry. Cassius looked at the pass in Red's shaking hands, at the old man dying in a hospital bed, at Mrs. Miller sitting quiet on the other side. I forgive him, Cassius said, Red's eyes filled with tears. You didn't have to say that. I know, but I mean it. Why? Cassius thought about it, about that day 4 years ago, about standing on concrete steps, about Frank's hand on the glass, about everything that had happened since. Because carrying hate is harder than letting it go. Red nodded, slow, understanding. Mrs. Miller stood. I'll give you two some time. She left. The door closed. Just Cassius and Red and the sound of machines keeping track of a life running out. Tell me about Miami, Red said. So Cassius told him. About Angelo, about training, about the sparring partners who pushed him, about learning to be faster, learning to think 3 moves ahead, learning to be champion before he ever wore the belt. Red listened, asked questions, good questions, trainer questions, about technique, about strategy, about the mental game. You still drop your right hand? Red asked. Cassius smiled. Sometimes. That's what got Liston. You dropped it on purpose. Made him think he had an opening. Maybe. That's brilliant. That's chess, not boxing. That's both. They talked for an hour. About fights, about fighters, about what it meant to be champion, about what came next. Then Red got tired. His words slowed. His eyes started to close. I need to tell you something, Red said. What? That day, when I opened the door, when I gave you that pass. Yeah? I was scared. Of what? Of what the other men would think, of what Frank would say, of losing my job, of everything. But you did it anyway. But I did it anyway. Red paused. You know why? Why? Because watching you walk away, watching you get in that car, I saw something. What did you see? I saw a man who was going to change the world, and I didn't want to be the one who stood in his way. Cassius felt something in his throat. Something he hadn't felt in a long time. Not since his mother hugged him on the porch. Not since his father folded that newspaper. You didn't stand in my way, Cassius said. I almost did. But you didn't. That's what matters. Red reached out. Cassius took his hand. The old man's grip was weak now. Nothing like 4 years ago. Nothing like the handshake in the doorway. Promise me something, Red said. Anything. When you defend that title, when you fight again, when you do all the things I know you're going to do. Promise me you'll remember that it's not about keeping people out. It's about letting people in. I promise. And promise me you'll open doors for people the way I should have opened doors for you. I will. Good. Red closed his eyes. That's good. Mrs. Miller came back in, looked at her husband, then at Cassius. He needs to rest, she said softly. Cassius stood. The guest pass was still on the bedside table, faded, creased, a bridge between 2 worlds that never got crossed. Can I keep this? Cassius asked, picking it up. He'd want you to, Mrs. Miller said. Cassius put it back in his wallet, next to the contracts, next to the photos, next to everything that defined who he'd become. He walked to the door, stopped, looked back at Red sleeping in the hospital bed. Thank you, Cassius said quietly. Mrs. Miller smiled, sad smile, knowing smile. He was waiting for you. I think he can let go now. Cassius left the room, walked down the hallway, past the nurses, past the smell of disinfectant and dying, past all the rooms where people were holding on or letting go. Outside, Louisville was cold. Gray sky, March weather. The city that had raised him and restricted him looked different now, smaller somehow, like he'd outgrown it without realizing. Grand Avenue, 4:45 p.m. His mother's house looked the same. Small. Blue paint peeling a little. The porch where she'd stood 4 years ago still sagging in the middle. He knocked. She answered, older now, more lines in her face. But the same eyes, the same love. Baby. She hugged him, held him. I saw you on television, saw you win. I know. Your father watched too, he cried. Where is he? At work, painting signs, always painting signs. They went inside. The house smelled like home, like childhood, like everything that had been and everything that would never be again. His old room was the same, the gold medal still on the wall, dust on it now, time on it. Why did you come back? His mother asked, to see someone. Who? A man from a gym, a trainer. He's dying. His mother nodded. She understood death, understood goodbye, understood that sometimes you had to go back to move forward. Did you talk to him? I did. Was it good? Cassius sat on his old bed. It creaked, too small for him now. Everything in this room was too small. He gave me something 4 years ago, a pass to train at his gym. I never used it. Why not? Because I was angry, because I wanted to prove something, because I thought winning meant showing people they were wrong. His mother sat next to him. The bed creaked again. And now? Now I know winning means something different. What does it mean? Cassius pulled the guest pass from his wallet, showed it to her. She held it, studied it, like she was trying to see what he saw in this faded white card. It means opening doors for other people. It means being big enough to forgive. It means remembering where you came from while never letting it define where you're going. His mother handed back the pass. That man at the gym, the one who's dying. Red. He gave you this because he saw something in you. He told me that. Said I was going to change the world. Are you? Cassius looked at his mother. At the woman who'd raised him in a city that didn't want him to succeed. Who'd hummed away the hurt. Who'd made him believe he could be something when the world said he couldn't. I'm going to try. She smiled. That's all anyone can do. They sat there, mother and son, in a room that had held dreams and disappointments, in a house that had witnessed everything, in a city that was changing slower than it should but faster than it had. I have to go back to Miami tomorrow, Cassius said. I know, but I wanted to come here first, wanted to see you, wanted to remember. Remember what? That no matter how big I get, no matter what I win, no matter what people call me, I'm still your son, still the boy who cried about a stolen bicycle. His mother's eyes filled with tears. You'll always be that boy to me. I know, but you're also something else now, something bigger, something that scares me a little. Why does it scare you? Because the world doesn't like people who are too big, too loud, too confident, too black. The world likes to cut down people like you. Cassius stood, looked at the gold medal on the wall, at the dust and the time. Let them try. His mother stood too, hugged him again, this time longer, like she was holding on to something she knew she couldn't keep. Promise me something, she said. Anything. Promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you'll remember that words can hurt as much as fists. Promise me you'll choose your battles. I promise. But they both knew it was a lie. Cassius Clay didn't choose his battles chose him, and he never walked away from a fight, never would, even when he should. Fairview Avenue, 6:02 p.m. Cassius drove past the gym one last time. The building was dark, empty, a for sale sign in the window. Everything that had happened there was memory now, nothing more. He parked across the street, same spot as 4 years ago, same view of the entrance. The sign was gone, members only. Someone had taken it down, or maybe it had fallen. Either way, it didn't matter anymore. He got out of the car, crossed the street, climbed the 3 concrete steps. The door was locked. Through the window he could see dust, empty floor. The ring was gone, the bags were gone. Everything that made it a gym was gone, but standing there, hand on the door, Cassius could still feel it. That moment, Frank's hand on the glass, Red opening the door, the choice between anger and dignity, between violence and words. He'd chosen words, and words had made him champion. A voice behind him. Can I help you? Cassius turned. A man, maybe 30, realtor probably, clipboard in hand, looking at him with curiosity. "Just looking," Cassius said. The realtor squinted. Recognition crossed his face. "You're Cassius Clay." "Yes, sir, the fighter, the champion." "That's right." The realtor looked at the building, then back at Cassius. "You interested in buying it?" Cassius almost laughed. "No, just remembering." "Remembering what?" "A time I wasn't allowed in." The realtor didn't know what to say to that. Looked uncomfortable, like he'd stumbled into a conversation he didn't want to have. "It's a good building," he said finally. "Solid structure. Could be anything. Restaurant, office space, whatever. How long has it been empty?" 3 months. Owner died. Gym closed. Family wants to sell. Red Miller. You knew him?" "I did." The realtor relaxed a little. He was a good man. Trained a lot of fighters. Some of them went on to big things. "Did he ever talk about me?" "He did, actually. Said you came to visit him before he died. Said you were the one who would change everything." Cassius felt that thing in his throat again. "He said that?" "He did. Told everyone. Told his family. Told the nurses. Said Cassius Clay was going to show the world what a real champion looked like." The sun was setting. Orange light on the brick, on the empty windows, on the place that had rejected him and taught him in equal measure. "He was right," Cassius said. "About what?" "About everything." The realtor shifted his clipboard. "Well, if you change your mind about the building, here's my card." Cassius took it. Knew he'd never call. Knew he'd never need to. "Thank you," he said. The realtor left. Cassius stood there alone. 1 more minute. 1 more memory. Then he turned and walked down the 3 steps. Got in his car. Started the engine. He looked at the guest pass one last time. Faded, creased, worthless paper that meant everything. He put it on the dashboard. Left it there. Visible. A reminder. Then he drove away from Fairview Avenue. Away from Louisville. Away from everything that had tried to keep him small. He was champion now. And champions didn't look back. They only moved forward. Opening doors. Breaking barriers. Changing the world one fight at a time. Red had seen it. Frank had denied it. His mother had feared it. But Cassius Clay had always known it. From that first day. Standing on concrete steps. Hand reaching for a door that wouldn't open. He was going to be the greatest. Not because someone let him, but because no one could stop him. And that made all the difference. Miami Beach, 2 weeks later, 7:23 a.m. Cassius ran 5 miles before sunrise. Same as always, same routine, same discipline. But something was different now. Lighter maybe, like he'd left something behind in Louisville. Some weight he'd been carrying without knowing it. Angelo was waiting at the gym when he arrived, coffee in hand, newspaper folded under his arm. "How was Louisville?" Angelo asked. "Good. Just good? Necessary." Angelo nodded, didn't push. He'd learned over 4 years that Cassius talked when he was ready. Never before. They worked the heavy bag, 3-minute rounds, Cassius finding his rhythm, finding that place where everything disappeared except the movement. Between rounds, Angelo spoke. "We got an offer. Title defense. June. New York. Against who?" "Patterson, Floyd Patterson, former champion, good fighter, fast, technical. Everything Cassius wasn't supposed to beat." "I'll take it. You need more time, more preparation. I'm ready now." Angelo studied him, saw something different, something settled. "What happened in Louisville?" Cassius stopped wrapping his hands, looked at his trainer, the man who'd believed in him when no one else did, the man who'd stayed when he could have left. "I forgave someone who never asked for forgiveness. How's that feel?" "Lighter." Angelo smiled. "Good. Light fighters move faster." They trained for 3 more hours. Speed bags, sparring, footwork. Everything that had made Cassius champion, everything that would keep him champion. When they finished, Cassius sat on the bench, sweat-soaked, breathing steady, hands still steady. The guest pass was in his gym bag. He'd brought it back from Louisville. Not to use, just to keep. A reminder of doors that had closed and doors that had opened and doors he'd have to open for others. "You know what Red told me?" Cassius said. "What?" "That it's not about keeping people out. It's about letting people in." Smart man. He was. He died last week. His wife called. Thought you should know. Cassius nodded. He'd expected it, known it was coming. But it still hit him, the finality of it. The end of something. "He saw you become champion," Angelo said. That meant something to him. It meant something to me, too. They sat there, trainer and fighter, old partnership. built on trust and work and understanding. "You ready for Patterson?" Angelo asked. "I'm ready for everyone." That's what I thought. Outside, Miami Beach was waking up, sun rising over the ocean, people starting their days, living their lives, not knowing that in a gym on 5th Street, the heavyweight champion of the world was preparing to defend his title, preparing to prove again what he'd always known, that he was the greatest, not because someone gave him permission, but because he'd earned it, fight by fight, word by word, door by door. Red Miller had seen it 4 years ago, standing in a doorway, giving a young fighter a card he'd never use, opening a door that would change everything. And now that door was open, not just for Cassius, but for everyone who came after, everyone who'd been told no, everyone who'd been turned away, everyone who'd had a hand hit the glass before they could reach the handle. The door was open, and it would stay open. Because champions didn't just win fights, they changed the world, one door at a time.